Thank you, Chairman Mix, and I would also like to thank Ranking Member McCall, and thank you, Secretary Busby, for joining us today. As many of my colleagues have already stated, there is no denying that much of the world is a hostile place for many because of their sexual orientation. These people routinely face discrimination in some countries and live in fear in others where their identity is punishable by imprisonment or death. These are the fears of those living in those countries with the worst human rights records, mostly in Africa, the Middle East, and Southeast Asia. In some countries, including Iran, Nigeria, and Saudi Arabia, homosexuality is not only criminalized, but punishable by capital punishment. But danger for these individuals does not stop at the state. In the Middle East in particular, many individuals confirmed or suspected to be of a different sexual orientation are subject to extrajudicial killings at the hands of militias, local authorities, and even family members. All these so-called honor killings are ignored by the state. Just last month, Ali Reza Fazel Monfared, he's a 20-year-old citizen of Iran, was murdered by his own family for identifying as a gay man. Mr. Monfared's case is not an isolated one. In countries like Iran, honor killings have been allowed to run rampant and lead to murder of an untold number of women, girls, and individuals from vulnerable populations. For these reasons, I was happy to partner with Congressman Cicilline in introducing a resolution today condemning Iran for allowing honor killings in its country to go unpunished and calling of the international community to hold the regime accountable for its human rights abuses. There is a unifying theme between these abuses. Those countries who perpetrate the worst abuses towards those disadvantaged by their sexual orientation also generally have the worst records on human rights abuses overall. With regular abuses and atrocities directed at vulnerable population for their political views, religious beliefs, and ethnicity. The perpetrators of these abuses are not isolated from the international arena or stigmatized as untouchable. Many of them sit in seats of international power, with a number of them including China, Russia, Cuba, Saudi Arabia, Eritrea, Malawi, Pakistan, Somalia, Senegal, Sudan, and Venezuela, even sitting on the UN Human Rights Council. China is committing genocide against entire ethnic groups as we speak and sits on one of the 5 permanent members on the UN Security Council. UNHCR even went so far as to praise Iran last year in a joint report for its progress on modernizing and humanitarian issues. This is the international body supposed to highlight and govern human rights issues internationally, and it's praising the worst violators. Secretary Busby, how can we credibly leverage the influence of the United States and other international organizations to protect the basic rights of those at risk for their sexual orientation when we can't even hold regimes with horrible human rights records towards general populations accountable? Further, how will you work within the State Department to ensure that it is the United States policy that the worst human rights abusers are removed from seats of influence on deciding human rights issues such as UNHCR?
Thank you for the questions, Congresswoman. We share your concern about the situations you described and the abuses that you described as well in those countries. Horrific. And it is indeed quite challenging to address these. I think the view of the Biden administration is that while indeed there are significant problems in multilateral bodies like the Human Rights Council, that our engaging in those bodies is ultimately going to be more effective in advancing our goals than pulling out of them. And that's indeed why we re-engaged with the Council soon after President Biden took office, and why we've decided to run for a seat on the Human Rights Council again. And I think this reflects a fundamental view of the Biden administration, is that to make progress on these issues, whether it's with a particular country or a multilateral institution, we need to be working with our like-minded partners. The more we can partner with other governments that share our values, the greater impact I think we can have. Recently, on March 22nd, we declared sanctions with the EU, UK, and Canada on a number of Chinese individuals and entities implicated in the human rights abuses in Xinjiang. That's elicited a very strong reaction from the PRC, which we think demonstrates that they are concerned about their reputation internationally. And we think the more that countries can join together to express their concerns, the greater that these countries may listen to what we have to say.
Thank you very much. I yield back my time.